This is the Bush Whisperer coming at you from the beautiful Penguin Sanctuary, the southern tip of Africa, Cape Town, Boulders, Simonstown. Here, near Cape Agulhas, I tend to listen to the waves very often. So this conversation is about waves. And I want you to consider what waves are. Imagine waves in the ocean for a moment. And you can gain an insight into waves if you lie in the bath and you move your hands. You make waves. So what are waves? You can wave at someone. And when you see somebody that you wish to connect with, say hello to from a distance, you wave at them. So we can consider waving as connecting. I ended up getting into a conversation with one of the rangers about the Schumann resonance. That when we consider the waves, the wave is an interesting concept. The way in which waves move through a medium is the way in which energy moves through matter. And it moves through a process of magnetism, and it's a transference of electrical energy. So the electromagnetic field conducts the wave through water, through any medium. And so when we consider that a wave is being attracted in the direction that it's moving towards, and it's being repelled from the direction from which it's moving, you see the yang-yin being reflected in the notion of waves. So next time when you're by the sea and you're watching the ocean and you're watching the waves, or you're in the bath making the waves, become aware of how this process works. The way in which in life we can make waves. In fact, the process of living is making waves, if you really want to get to the bottom of it. And that we are in a constant state of flux between attraction and repulsion. And that yang-yin is the fundamental principle being expressed in this nature. And that this nature is giving and taking. And that we are receiving and giving. And that nature is giving to us what we receive as we give back to the world what we've taken. And so the cycle of birth and life is a reflection of these two principles. And that everything can be considered as waves. Everything in life, every emanation of consciousness, thoughts are waves, a wavelength of thought. Emotions are waves, wavelengths of emotion. Matter, when you walk, it's a wavelength moving through your feet against the ground. The pressure moving between your feet as you take steps, conducting the wave of energy and magnetism through your body, moving across the electrical field, producing the shifts of polarity between your foot and the ground, is the giving and taking forces that produce the waves of movement. So all movement can be seen as an expression of waves. All movement. I want you to consider that. So what is the static? The static is the relationship between the polarities of the wavelength. And so we can consider all things to be this reflection of the static principle between the yang and the yin, and the giving and the receiving poles of the energetic flux, which becomes the wave. And so wavelengths need to be considered and understood in such a context. And that way we'll be able to understand the way in which thoughts are an emanation of an emotional field. And that the emotional field is a substructure through which thought is conducted as a wave. And when we consider the polarities of thought, that is a wavelength of emotion. And so to realize the Ida as the expression of thought and the Ida as the implement of emotion from which is expressed the thought of Pingala, we can see that thought and emotion are two poles of a singular wave connecting two waves. And so we can see there's a dynamic polarity operating, and I keep saying these words with prayers in my heart that it will touch yours in order for you to start to embrace the nature of the yang-yin, the nature of the fundamental duality, which is the concept that we can understand as polarity. And you will understand this by observing waves. And also recognizing that wavelengths are not two-dimensional squiggles on a piece of paper. Wavelengths are an expanding and contracting spiral. So the process of expansion and the process of contraction can be seen as the forces of magnetism. And the process of expansion and the process of contraction can be seen as the principles of electricity. When we say that an electron moves, it doesn't move. It creates forces of expansion and contraction. And so expansion and contraction are the fundamental currency of waves. And so we're looking at the most fundamental structure of being. In the way that thoughts contract, what you think you become contracted to. Thoughts contract back towards you, creating more thoughts, contracting more thoughts. Emotions are an expanding spiral, which are produced by the contracting of the thoughts. And when we experience the emotional spiral of expansion of emotions, it produces the subsequential contraction of thought as a contract to the emotion. And that the emotion subtracts from the contract in order to recontract. And so life is a series of contracts between expansion cycles of extractions as we extract information from the consciousness field and contract it to the physical field. Can you see how these words operate? So the words are also fundamentally important to understand these principles. Though, do like and do share this video. Let the YouTube algorithms work for us. It's not always in our favor. And hit the bell button, because there will be regular uploads, consistent lessons coming through the BushWhisperer series. Best to follow series 1, then series 2, then series 3, in subsequent order from the beginning to the end if you want to make the best out of it. Recognize as well that the nature of reality as an expanding cycle of cycles of waves is a wonderful way to understand the medium of electromagnetism, which is essentially the fundamental state that we experience matter through. So if you want to understand matter, you want to understand the electromagnetics. For life is the polarity of electricity expressing magnetism. And the cadence between these two poles are what we can consider particularization. And so the particles arise in this field of interaction as the crests of waves. I'll leave you with that. Like and share, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss daily uploads. Have an absolutely gorgeous day, and consider the waves that you make in life as expressions of the waves on the ocean. Consider that one cannot live without waves, and that breathing, the very nature of breathing, are waves, and that the waves moving through the body are conducted by the beating of the heart. And the beating of the heart can be considered as the polarizing effect of the waves moving through the physical body, carried by consciousness. This is the Bush Whisperer coming at you from the most beautiful penguin sanctuary. Have an absolutely gorgeous day. Om Shanti.